I was disturbed by your characterization of Hamas as not recognizing Israel because, first of all, they always said they would recognize Israel if Israel recognized Palestinian rights. And also, Israel has never defined its borders, so Hamas can hardly recognize an Israel that might define itself then subsequently as having Palestine. But my question is, I thought you were...
Can I just ask you, I'm not sure what I said that you're responding to.
Okay, I thought you were commenting about how the Palestinians were not recognizing Israel. And so I was just making a comment about that I thought that was an unfair characterization of them. Okay, well, I have a question. My question is, I think that my feeling is that you're more optimistic about what the situation is in Israel-Palestine. Ilan Pappé has already described it as genocidal. And I was wondering if you could tell us if there are any articles of the Convention Against Apartheid that Israel has not already been committing.
Well, just on the question of whether I'm optimistic or not, I thought that I conveyed a serious level of pessimism about where this is headed. If I didn't, let me be perfectly clear that I think there's not going to be a two-state solution. There's not going to be a one-state solution where Israeli Jews and Palestinians living in that region have equal rights. So that leaves two other options, apartheid or ethnic cleansing. Do I believe there is a possibility you could have an attempt at massive ethnic cleansing by the Israelis? I do believe there's a possibility. And I think it's not likely. To be very clear, I think it's not likely, but I do think it's possible. And we do have a precedent, 1948, and there's been enough other ethnic cleansing around the world to make one worry about this situation. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that where you're headed is towards an apartheid state. And I think there's going to come a point somewhere down the road where Israel has so much control of the West Bank and has so many roads built there and so many settlements that it's going to look like part of greater Israel. And the demographic curves are going to cross, and there are going to be more Palestinians between the Jordan and the Mediterranean than there are Israeli Jews. And then you're going to have a discourse around the globe where people are talking about apartheid. See, it's very important to understand that when I was a young boy, our view in the United States of what happened in Palestine between 1900 and 1948 was largely shaped by Leon Uris's famous book, Exodus, which portrayed the Israelis, or the Zionists really, in a heroic light. They were the good guys. And the Arabs were basically the bad guys. They were smelly, they were sympathetic to the Nazis. There was just very little that was positive about the Arab population, and a great deal that was positive about the Zionists. And the story about 1948, which you all know, that everybody was led to believe was true, was that the Arab leaders told the Palestinians to leave their homes so that they could drive the Jews into the sea and effectively murder them all, and then allow the Palestinians to come back to their homes. We now know that this is a myth. It's a lie. It's simply not true. And we also know, in large part due to the efforts of the new Israeli historians, that what happened between the Jews and the Palestinians bears hardly any resemblance to what Leon Uris told us in Exodus. In fact, if anything, the exact opposite of what Uris told us is true. I don't want to go that far, but the book was just a series of myths. Well, the fact is that now people like John Mearsheimer and Steve Walt and Jimmy Carter and assorted other individuals in the United States have come to understand what really happened to the Palestinians. And we certainly understand from watching TV every night and reading in the newspapers what's been happening to the Palestinians since 1967. So it has become increasingly difficult for pro-Israel forces in the United States to control the discourse, because there are more and more people popping up who have what is essentially the correct picture in their head. And this is not going to change with time. More and more people are going to read and hear Ilan Pappé. More and more people are going to read and hear Norman Finkelstein. More and more people are going to read and hear Jimmy Carter. And this is not to say that everything that every one of those individuals says is correct, or that everything that Steve Walt and John Mearsheimer says is correct. You don't have to agree with everything we say. And I'm sure, as reflected in some of the questions, that not everybody agrees with us. But the basic thrust of what happened and is happening between the Israelis and the Palestinians is becoming much clearer to more and more people. And this is a huge problem for the Israelis. And this gets back to this woman's question about apartheid. It is going to become manifestly clear to a lot of people in the decades ahead that Israel has become an apartheid regime. And this is why Ehud Olmert said, remember what he said, I read the second sentence to you. He said that if we don't have a two-state solution, we're going to have a South Africa-style situation. That's what he said. He was saying we're going to have an apartheid state. And he said, not John Mearsheimer, not Jimmy Carter, not Bishop Tutu, Ehud Olmert said, when that happens, we're finished. What he's telling you is that ideas matter. And the idea, right, that the Canadian Jewish community or the American Jewish community is going to have to defend an apartheid state in the face of the Jimmy Carters and the Bishop Tutus is not going to be workable over the long term. I think that's what Ehud Olmert is saying. Now, he may be wrong. It may be that the so-called international community is bankrupt enough that it doesn't matter that Israel can create an apartheid state and get away with it. It may be the case. We'll see. But I would not bet a lot of money on that. I think the times are changing here. And I think from talking to many of Israel's supporters that they sense that time is not on their side.